Hello, good morning. So, I speaking with a buddy last night about this, and brought up a good point that I want to share. And that is the business model of fear. Now, recently we've had the UFO congressional hearings where they came out and they said that there's non-human biologics or whatever bodies, non-humans, that they said that they had recovered. They said they've been back engineering alien technology. They talked about the military-industrial complex, and if you don't understand totally how that works, basically they're able to sign off for money, for funding of these black projects in corporate America. Well, and actually, let me correct that. It's not America. They are not American in their ideals and their principles, by no means. But in certain corporations, and they're able to develop technologies outside of the view and the oversight of Congress, protecting it under intellectual property or property rights. And so they use corporate law to circumvent our nation's and people and even our nation's leaders from knowing what they've been doing on the backside. Now, let me say it like this, and I'm going to put together a few analogies. There's this one gentleman, I forget his name, he's a former CIA operative. And they discuss how within the Central Intelligence Agency, they are very big on mastering human psychology. I've been speaking about this for quite some time. They talk about the predictability of human beings. And they talk the difference between perspective and perception. And how most people are very egocentrically based. Not only egocentrically based, but I've discussed this, very culturally isolated and limited to the knowledge that they have. If you look at the post below this one where I had talked about the large opposing views between the right, lots of times wanting to convert people to religion, and the left wanting to save people from religion, I'm talking in generalities, right? But of course somebody chimed in, and a couple people did, and said, hey, well, that's not accurate because of this. And I was discussing things from my own cultural bubble. Now, that being said, my point being, most people are not able to look outside that bubble, or they take offense when someone tries to offer a different perspective. Well, don't tell me I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. I dealt with this just a few days ago with a spiritual leader. And so in that, what they have is they have a very limited perception of reality. But those individuals in particular, the very few at the top, they have perspective because they are able to understand how the world works outside of their immediate egocentric bubble. And they have the totality, or we'll say a vast majority more of the facts. They're able to have a perspective. And the problem is the people that are able to have perspective are the ones that are in charge, and they're able to then manipulate the perceptions of the people in their own bubble and control us. And remember, language, the English language, it's very matrixy in itself, right? Money is currency, right? Current is an energy. It is a flow in a river. It is what runs through our electrical lines. We are bioelectrical, electromagnetic beings. When we go out and work, we are bringing through our currency to earn currency right? And the thing about that currency, that work that we give, you know, in this world, that currency is how do I say this? The currency is made as valuable as the contribution is of the person to the system, to the matrix, that unfortunately is set up in such a way that it's all about, and this isn't just capitalism to the communists, that like there is nowhere to get away from this concept. It is the way in which money is developed, is made. It is currently, it is based on a expansion of business and a profit. In order for one to largely profit in a system that is supposed to have a set amount of money that we are trading as currency, of course, with, you know, QE2 and QE3, 4, all, you know, with all the quantitative easing that the central bank or the federal bank has done, where they just print money. It kind of makes it obsolete. But the point is that when one is profiting, well then, in the way this system is set up, and I'm not trying to, just hear me out, then there has to be somewhere else that it's being extracted from. And this concept is exactly what the powers that be do in order to keep us in line. This is why you have .com bubbles. This is why you have housing market crashes. It is a way for them to influence the markets and extract our wealth and our currency, our energy out of us, right? The matrix, like the battery, out of us. And back to the perception perspective. They're able then to use that currency that they extract from us and put it into programs that further alter our perception of reality by triggering us emotionally. And let me give you a couple analogies, since we're talking about the matrix. And I would say that, you know, most people talk about being awake and being in the matrix, and what they forget is being awake and being in the matrix isn't just about understanding all of the stuff that's going on in the world at all. It's about awakening in the heart. Because you have to awaken in the heart in order to truly be able to navigate how they are manipulating our perceptions to eventually gain a clearer objective perspective and not be moved around as they choose to move us in such a way that is detrimental to humanity but benefits the elite. So let me give you a spiritual analogy. The spiritual analogy is, if you've ever seen the first Matrix movie, at the end of it, when Neo gets reborn, when he dies at the end, he stands up and the agents, they start shooting rounds at him, right? Pop, 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 pop. And all of a sudden he just does this. And they stop. He takes the round and he looks at it and he goes, nope, doop. Nope, doop. And then they all fall. Then all of a sudden, he's fighting these dudes without thinking. He's even looking at it going, how am I doing this? Think of it like this. Those bullets, first and foremost, are thoughts and emotions that are being launched at you by the controllers. These thoughts and emotions are designed in such a way to get you out of your own critical thought by emotionally triggering you to a point that you can't critically think. And then they will put obstacles in front of you to steer you in the maze where they want. It's called the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They will create a problem, know you will have a reaction to it, a very predictable reaction to it based on human nature, and they will offer you a solution that will seem good in the process, but without being in heart and calm and critically thinking. Once taken down the road, you realize, oh, this had nothing to do with helping me, it was helping the elite. This is what the basis of, look at the Patriot Act. Certain aspects of that. Look at, well, we can go on with that. My point is, so the Matrix, first and foremost, is that emotional, spiritual matrix. Because people think awake is just knowledge. Let me say it like this. Is there knowledge that the elections, going all the way back to, going back to Bernie Sanders, who were saying the same thing about the election problems, the same thing as Trump. But see, they have to bury that because they can't have both sides. And more importantly, the majority of people that are still have their perception altered by the media, realizing that both sides are being manipulated in the same way. Now, what happened on January 6th? If you were to go back, I warned people. I said, guys, because I was watching people on Facebook. I had friends that were going out there. I was observing the atmosphere. I was looking at the way in which people were talking, the way in which they were going. And I said, do not go out there and allow yourself to be swept up in emotion and violence. Because if you do, they are going to use it to paint all of us constitutionalists, all of us that love our country, all of us that are the white male veterans. They're going to do everything they can to paint us as the problem. And what happened? That's exactly what happened. And I warned about this ahead of time. Now, in being awake, was it the knowledge of the situation that made, say, me awake? Or was it being able to have that emotional control, having gone through, because dude, don't get me wrong, I ain't saying I'm been there, done that. Like, I get it. I still deal with PTSD every day. That said, I'm self-aware enough of it and honest enough of it that I can do what I can to mitigate and gain control. If someone thinks there's nothing wrong with their anger, their wrath, their this, their that, their vengeance, punisher, we're going to punish them. They're very easily led, guys. That's what happened. So being awake just isn't about knowledge. It's about being awakened in heart, emotional discipline, compassion, empathy, moral courage, self-discipline. What they've done is they've twisted it. It's like the other scene, I think, in The Matrix 2, in the Merovingian. I think Passio talks about this. When Neo goes to the Merovingian and he goes, well, you come to me, I ask you why, but you can't tell me why. Well, then you come to me without power. You come to me without anything. Neo thinks he's going there because he was told to go there by the oracle. But why do you feel compelled to do what the oracle says? What led you here? What is it within you that feels that that is the right course of action, the right path, the right this? Have you looked at all sides? Have you looked at the consequences? Have you stepped outside of your cultural bubble, looked at the other side and said, how may that cultural bubble affect mine? The thing is most people, they think they're awake, but they're being led like sheep to slaughter emotionally. And this is my point, going back to UFOs. The UFO business model. So, I have been there. When I had my experience, dude, high and to the right, lost it. Anybody that goes back a decade plus, my spiritual outlook on it has completely changed. Just say that. But initially what happened, and the reason I'm talking about this, because I'm hoping to help others process through and not react the same way I did. But the initial response for those of us in particular, within anybody that's been in any type of service to humanity. You know, anybody that's been in the military, anybody that's been in healthcare, in fire, EMS, law enforcement, these type of things. You know, I talk about this quite a bit. These individuals see the most horrific of the horrific of the horrific. The stuff that we see, it is imbued, it is just seared into the consciousness. PTSD. I have horrific. Still, I have to yeah. And lots of times what that does is if someone isn't able yet, because you can have the certain reaction, or excuse me, the certain reactions without emotionally reacting to it. That's the trick. It's like they say, a lot of things, you know, it becomes a part of you. There's no going away. It's like, but you learn to live with it in a different way, and you learn to use it to better the self. You learn to use it in a way that is a benefit for humanity, not a detriment to you. And then we're getting out of victim mentality, right? Even ourselves. And in a way, it becomes an ally with us to make us stronger, persevere. You know, it's like, what do they say? Like, well, it doesn't matter. So you have folks that have gone through a whole lot. And this was part of my problem with Trump back in 2016, to everybody to stand, ignoring the real mental health help that we need across the board for everyone. Instead of going into combat mode or fight or flight mode, and right, we really need to really look at mental health, look at healing our nation. This is part of the prophecy of the Condor and Eagle that Chief Phil Lane is a part of it. You guys know about that if you've been watching me for some time. But it's in that healing that we're going to be able to come out of that combat mode and actually start uniting again as Americans first, like truly to serve and protect all, right? Not just one political party or one ideology or one this or one that, but truly swore an oath to all American citizens, right? You can disagree with me, you can burn the flag, do this, do that, I'll protect your right to do that. Like that's the cost of freedom. But I also, during that time, will offer the contrast, the counter to that, and do the best I can to protect people from that level of ignorance and naivety. Well, when I had my quote-unquote UFO experience, and I'm not going to go into it in depth, I've talked about it years ago, and at the time everybody was like, dude, he's acting irrational, he must be crazy because he's talking about UFOs and aliens. And what I would offer is that no, and people that know me for a decade now, all of a sudden all this stuff's coming out and they're like, oh. See, I was having very normal negative reactions to a very abnormal reality that was suddenly thrust upon me. And the veil of everything that I thought was real got ripped off in an instant. And the first thing that popped in my mind was, why are we allowed to have such hell on this planet then? They have this level of technology. Why? And it put me into a rage. It put me into a terror for my family. I was terrorized for my family. I was enraged at the brutality and the horrific things that are allowed to go on. And that emotion was used against me. Now, fast forward many, many years later, don't get me wrong, I still have my times where I'm like, oof, right? But I do my best to always reel it back in, self-examine. Wait a minute, Warren, that's not going to do anybody good, right? It's like, buddy at work says, like, okay, well, if we have this something bad happen and everybody's blown up, like one more person screaming and crying about it ain't going to make the situation better. Remember that time everybody got upset, started screaming at each other, and then we made the situation so much better? No. And for a lot of people, what I would say is people are coming into a lot of this information now, and they're, oh, we're going to this and we're going to that. Oh, hold on. This is what I was saying years ago. Everybody wanted to tell me I was crazy. That being said, I understand your reactions. They're normal. What I would ask you to do, I get it. I hear you. I share your rage, your anger, your frustrations, your fears. I share it all. What I'm saying is learn from me. Don't make the same mistakes. It's not all bad. If it was all bad, well, I wouldn't even be able to be here to have this conversation. That's fact. And I want people to notice that at this time, this stuff just happens now to be coming out when all the other stuff is happening right now, right? They're just bombarding us with all this stuff. What are they going to start trying to push on the back end to save us? What business model is going to be created by exploiting our fears, our angers, our frustrations? And the thing is you can go down as many rabbit holes there are, right? Dude, my name is Warren. Warren is a rabbit's den, right? The ultimate rabbit hole, if you will. The ultimate, you know, it's like red pill, blue pill, and the purple pill. Here's the purple pill. Let's look at both sides of this and see what's going on, right? Matter of fact, let's just rip the whole veil off, and we're just asking questions. Let's just ask questions. Let's just look at it from a different perspective. Because it's not about being right, and it's not about dominating the other. It's about finding the fundamental truth and appealing to that good nature in everyone's heart that right now is being buried by the matrix and all the bullets of the emotions and thoughts that's being thrown at them to alter their perception of reality, so the people that have an actual perspective at the top can then use our energy and our currency, while at the same time pulling our monetary currency from us to give us solutions to the fears that they've created that will end up enslaving us more. Don't fall for it. Good, bad, yep. You cultivate that heart. Cultivate that steadfastness. It ain't going to matter what they throw at us. But notice, it doesn't matter if it's from UFOs to child trafficking. Everything has become a business model to them. They make it a business model. Either a Hollywood film or security systems everywhere. And I mean, right now, Washington State, when I was just told, I-5, they're putting in the security cameras that now they just monitor your speed, take a picture of you, send you your ticket in the mail and go, thank you, have a nice day. You were exceeding the speed limit. You will now pay X amount of money, blah, 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 blah. Right? Force multiplier for law enforcement. On one hand, I'm like, yeah, okay, I could see that. On the other hand, I also realized that is the foundation of the Skynet system of the Chinese Social Credit score, or their surveillance grid. And they actually named it Skynet. And for those people that are a little bit older, you know what I'm talking about. The ones that are younger, that was the system in the Terminator movies, right? And this is no joke. They named it that. Yeah. So, but again, it's like anything, right? Human, you know, it can't compete with our true creativity in our heart. We can see through the illusion. We can help each other through the illusion. We can do this together. It just takes not reacting and emotionally getting invested and being pulled in and invoking those dark energies of anger, fear, bitterness, right? Because that makes enemies out of otherwise people that would be at our side. Been there. And the problem is even saying this, I make natural enemies because I'm not agreeing with hating on the other one on the other side. Hey, let's figure out how to help them. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I don't, like there's some things, like I talked about the other day with the child trafficking that, yeah, there's zero tolerance for. And doing what we must in order, even if need be, in a combat situation to stop it. However, once we have them in a place where the threat has been neutralized or they are not a threat to us, well then that's when we have enough emotional discipline to step in and under the laws of war, the Geneva Convention, the code of every, everyone out there, mercy. Okay, now come with me. That's the difference, guys. They want us to invoke the opposite. They're doing it in the name of religion. They're doing it in the name of politics. They're doing it in the name of child trafficking. They're doing it in the name of UFOs. They're doing it in the name of everything. Don't let them. Do not let them. No need. All we got to do is sit back, observe. What's going on? What are you going to throw at us next? Because all we're going to do is just sit together, ask simple questions. Well, it's kind of like the one group that said they were going to come back, and it's all the gods of the Abrahamic religion, right? And they're here to reinstate the way in which the Kazarian, the Kazakhstan New World Religious Order views things, right? Very punishing, right? Or I shouldn't say punishing. In the book, it wasn't that. It was, love, 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 love. However, they're wanting to reinstate that level of hierarchy that is also being, I'll just say, upheld in Kazakhstan. The same, they call it the same, right? The same name, let's say that. And in it talks about these beings coming back in spaceships and landing and this and that. And, and I sit there, just look at it, and I'm like, well, okay, well, if this is all the angels and the this and the that, as you're saying, and you're calling in beings and names and things are coming in, and well, then in the words of James Tiberius Kirk, what does God need with a spaceship? And let's just have a talk. And when I say, hey, let's have a talk, and you don't, and I'm like, hey, this is a serious subject, and all of a sudden you don't, I had someone do this the other day. I'm like, well, let's have an open talk about this. Let's talk about empathy. Let's talk about it's not good laughing at some of these things, because there are some people that are falling for these psyops, whether it's eat more bugs or climate change or change your gender, whatever it is. These are people that have been extremely emotionally wounded and are under massive amounts of mind control. To laugh at it in any way, to mock it in any way, is not the way to heal it. And as someone who, I'm a former combat veteran of EMS, the corporate dude, I work construction now. I can see this. If you're a spiritual healer and you cannot see this, you need to do some spiritual healing. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be like, dude, we all make mistakes, right? We're guaranteed to make mistakes. The most perfect thing we can do is figure out how to perfectly correct our mistakes. That's the way I look at it. That's the narrow path. That's the, because it's like a rod of iron, because you got to hold yourself accountable. But when you're more concerned about being a better human being for everyone and truth, then your pride, it's not an issue. Okay, somebody says something, but you can tell when someone is not at that place, because they'll come back and do everything they can to justify mocking or making fun of or not empathizing with. And if I do it, please correct me. I don't ever mean to dismiss anybody's feelings. if I joke about something or this, that's not my intent at all. But when it's a blatant someone saying they're a spiritual healer and they're out doing this stuff, or they're a spiritual healer and you're coming to them and all they want to do is pontificate about themselves and how enlightened they are and blah, 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 like, and not listen to what the person is saying. And I've had this done, you know, it's, no, you still have some healing to do. No shame. And it's like I say, God don't care who you were, only who you are. And you can change that in any given moment. But point being, and I'm going to wrap this up, guys, we're coming into a season of fear, season of chaos that is going to be beyond what most people can fathom. And what I would say is, don't let it. Learn from my mistakes. Don't let those emotional bullets hit you. Don't let those thoughts pull you into desperation, pull you into anger, fear, into those lower, you know, it's the same spirit that they would talk about being invoked in some of the religion, the hardcore Abrahamic religions. This is why you have ISIS and ISIL, and you have, you know, extremists in the Christian right that are like, God, you know, it's why they're invoking that energy in the name of God, and it is anything but of Christ. And it's the same thing on the left. They're invoking it in the name of social justice. And if you're invoking that in the name of God or social justice, then you're never thinking anything's wrong with it to do the proper shadow work, the proper self-accountability to change and even self-examine and see where that may be taken over the mind and being used to harm the innocent. And this is what they're attempting to do right now, especially in America, with all of this information to pull people into a lot of the QAnon stuff. It is religious right, the evangelical stuff of Trump, to pull people in that spirit into that. It is the deception. So just be wise, right? Be wise. Be loving. Be observe and do everything you can to grow beyond the self, to gain perspective so that your perception isn't used against you. And I'm still doing it every day, no better. Much love.